Script.
Let me know when you want me to do the.
Yes. Okay, we're ready.
Yes. Okay. Okay, Shoba's presenting.
Before we begin, this workshop will be recorded. Shoba is recording through a webcam.
Yes.
So just make note of that.
Yeah, I can stop recording for the question period. If you guys have a question that you don't want on the internet, I'll just edit it out in the VOD. But hello, it's good to be at UBC Annie. I continually glaze you guys to everyone that I know who isn't in UBC, except when they're in UBC, and then it gets kind of awkward because it's like, I'm glazing you, but you already know ball, right? Okay, anyway, so here is my presentation on how to draw backgrounds, an incorrect guide. You may not learn anything, but you will have fun. Yeah, all right, so the little breakdown for today. I'm going to do a quick self-introduction. I'm going to go over a little bit of background drawing theory, and then I'll do breakdowns of 2 pictures that I made for this presentation specifically, and then we'll have some concluding thoughts and a question period. Now, my run-through says that this will take about 30 minutes. Will it actually take 30 minutes?
It's fine if it doesn't.
Hell yeah. We'll go down to 20 then. All right, so my notes say that I'm Alpha U, a background artist. I received my Bachelor of Fine Arts from Emily Carr, and I'm currently the visual editor at Rebel Goose Books. They're a small publisher based in Nanaimo, and we're currently working on a comic anthology. So if you guys are interested in participating in professional comics, hit me up after the presentation. I do a lot of backgrounds. In fact, I'd like to say that my big thing is I like to draw places in Vancouver. One of the more cool projects that I was involved in was the SFU VTuber launch. So SFU has VTubers, which is crazy. When's UBC going to get on that? And in order to promote them, they made a sort of promotional anime short. So I got to draw like SFU propaganda, basically. Again, when is UBC going to get on? I'd love to draw UBC propaganda. Just as a side note, I see this like a sliver of this image every so often on like SFU news articles. I'm like, oh, they didn't credit me again. So that's fun. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Technically, SFU owns the image, so it's like it's really okay. I got paid, and that's what matters. I'm also the author of A Canadian's Guide to Making Manga. That's my self-published manga about what it means to be an Asian Canadian, and it's currently available at the Artist Alley in Aberdeen. So if you're interested in a copy, also hit me up after the workshop. And finally, since I work in publishing, I'm represented by Krista Ewers. That's the head agent of the Cat Agency. They're a big New York agency that represents illustrators in the realm of publishing, especially for comics and children's books. So, SHOBA children's book when? 2029, hopefully. All right. Okay, so if you're in Emily Carr, and specifically if you're in the illustration stream, you will be asked what is illustration by your prof at some point in your 4th year. And he has a correct answer. He says it's business. I have a different idea about what illustration is. So let's start with that as our jumping off point. What is illustration, guys? Drawing! I heard drawing. I heard something from this side of the room. Art! Illustration is art. That's true. But not all art is illustration. Actually, my prof, he said illustration is not art, which I thought was a really interesting distinction. But I agree, illustration can be art. Do you have any other takers? Illustration is drawing, illustration is art. Yes?
Imagination of a concept.
Yes, imagination of a concept. That's actually a really good answer. Yes?
I feel like illustration is like kind of different because I feel like with illustration, like the drawing is kind of the point, whereas if I feel like with other kinds of visual art, like sometimes the art is for a concept to make something else or like for a reference or something.
That is very true. Yeah, there are all sorts of art installations that don't rely on drawing whatsoever. And you could even look at some of the old master paintings, and I don't know if I would call that illustration. Like, I don't know if I would classify Mona Lisa as an illustration. All right, so what is illustration in my opinion, and not Professor Jeremy Tankard's? Communication. illustration is formed on the basis of communicating an idea. So to that end, I think my biggest advice for drawing backgrounds is to evaluate to yourself, do I need this? What do I mean? Well, when I'm looking at a picture, do I get the gist of that picture right away? I think any illustration that can sufficiently do this is a good illustration, when someone doesn't need to be told by the artist what this is going for. If that has enough visual information, and if that visual information looks correct enough that you can glean that meaning. And conversely, like an illustration that is not reaching the point could be an illustration where there's too much visual information, or maybe some of it is not clear, or even an illustration where you're kind of trying to flex your artistic skills. That's for studies, right? So I think my biggest advice for drawing backgrounds is to ask yourself how much background is necessary, and if the work does not require it, then it's perfectly fine. Here's a couple of my works that don't have backgrounds at all, to their benefit, I think. And so that's the most important thing. And conversely, I think when it comes to illustrating background specifically, there's so many things that we can jam into a background that can add to an illustration. So whereas a character can be defined mostly by the way that they emote or pose or look, an illustration that has a background can sort of push out the entire mood of that character to their entire world. And really, the background is, in essence, a stage, and your characters are the players in a play. And just as you can direct your players in a certain way, like you can have a play that doesn't have any set dressing, we never create a play where the set dressing is created first and then the play is written around it, right? We always design the set dressing based on what's going to happen. So if there's a spooky mood, then we can create something very tall and oppressive. If there's a very contemplative mood, then we can push that with the background and all sorts of specific elements. And also we can create contrast between subject elements and background elements. We can have a very spooky sort of background, but a very happy sort of subject matter, and that creates some visual interest. So you can see how backgrounds in some specific cases can vastly expand your toolkit of things that are possible to express. In fact, a lot of the classical great masters would frequently use very theatrical, stage-like ways of posing their characters. Like this is very stage-like, this is very set dressing-esque. So you can really see how the background, for example, in the School of Athens painting, leads to the grandiosity of the work. There's a lot of very deliberate staging. Just a little side note. This illustration, this Arcanite's fan art that I found on Reddit is really nice because it pays homage to the original School of Athens painting, and you can also see how the background is obviously very detailed, but it's not as detailed compared to the characters, and it doesn't need to be. All you need for this staging are the steps so that they look like they're descending, and then you have a nice even surface to put all of the operators in, and I think that's just about as perfect of a background as you can get. So you can see how we structure the background first around what the point of the scene is going to be. So yeah, your background is the stage. Hamilton's a good play. All right. I couldn't put this anywhere, but perspective. Perspective is one of those things that you just got to do it right. I don't know what I can say that hasn't been said by a million people on YouTube, but just like very quick, and if you don't know how perspective works, it's a horizon line, it's a horizontal line in the middle. This is where your eye line is. So everything below the horizon line, you can see the top of, and everything above the horizon line, you can see the bottom of. You'll pick some points. These are your vanishing points, and everything is going, if you draw a parallel line, they're going to disseminate from and vanish into that vanishing point. It's pretty simple. You can basically just draw perspective grids for yourself like so, and then draw a bunch of boxes and have them vanish into those vanishing points. This is the great way to practice perspective. Literally just do it, right? This is the one thing in art, I think, that I can think of that has like an objectively correct answer. Like there is correct perspective, and then there's incorrect perspective. There's also anatomy. That's fair. So yeah, practice your perspective. I went out to dinner one time with this guy that did concept art, and I worked on him with a project, and he was like, "Hey, thanks for working with me on the project." This was a couple of years ago, and he's like, "You gotta work on your perspective, man." I was like, shoot. They were right though. All right. So let's go into some paintings that I developed specifically for this workshop. I made two. I like this one a little less, so I'm going to go through it first. All right, so it's Optimus Prime. Okay, so this painting was sort of done plein air, which means drawing from real life. Now, in the digital age, because artists, I presume, don't want to leave their rooms anymore. I know I don't want to leave my room. We've sort of adapted plein air to mean drawing from a photo that you took in real life, which kind of defeats the point, I think. Like Van Gogh was turning in his grave, but it's fine. This is a photo of Bridgeport that I snapped, and then here's a photo of my very cool Optimus Prime action figure. He's my beloved darling. Incidentally, Plein Air April is currently happening. This is a 30-day long challenge where every day you create one plein air painting. It is very good, and if you are serious about improving on backgrounds, or even if you just want to have fun, devote, I don't know, 20 to 60 minutes of your day and create one plein air painting. It's very good for training your skills, trying to think quickly. Okay, so how are we going to achieve this, right? This photograph, so let's sort of plein air, sort of photo bashing. You have the backlighting right here, so we make sure that the figure is lit correctly. And as you can see, it's a really crappy Photoshop job. His legs aren't even complete over here. This is obviously just a stock image I found off of Google, but it works. And the more important part is that the big picture of it is mostly correct. I think when it comes to most artwork, if the big picture isn't correct, then the small part, the granular details, they're also not going to come together quite right. All right. So next, we're going to examine this photo in terms of values. So values are, anyone know? Should know this. Values are yes.
They're basically like how dark or light different parts of your drawing are, like respective of the actual hue or saturation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and likewise, hues are the colors. So values are the lights, darks, hues are the colors. And values are more important than hues, right? You can black and white a photo and it still sort of reads as readable. And then we can worry about the hues later on. So we always want to keep in mind that the value is readable. And to prove this, a bunch of people, this is a big thing on social media where they would draw a photo with the adjustment layer set to black and white first, and then they would pick random colors. And the photo looks right until you turn off the adjustment layer, and you can see it's all sorts of wacky colors. But the fact that the photo still looks right with or without colors should speak to the importance of values before hues. All right, so start with color blocking. For this one, I kind of want it to be a little more free, so I decided to just go in and block out the basic shapes. Right, we got the city in the back. We have quarter of an Optimus Prime, because I was really far into this. I was like, oh crap, I haven't taken a screenshot yet. So you have a quarter of an Optimus Prime, and then we have the car, which I later turned into something else. And then of course, we have the hill right here. There's nothing wrong, of course, with doing line art for backgrounds, but I think it kind of boxes you in and makes you think a little more linearly in a way that doing it more free with color blocking doesn't. So I would encourage anyone to sort of think in terms of color and shapes, right? I think when you're doing a character drawing, you can just finish the line art of the character, and it can be worked on from there, but it's more effective when we're doing backgrounds to think of it in terms of colors and shapes. That being said, there's nothing wrong with doing a line art drawing. Clients tend to really like line art because they can see exactly what they're getting into. Like, I can't show a client this. As long as the perspective is right, it's usually okay. Okay, so there's something to be said for levels of detail. When we're painting backgrounds, there's this tendency to imagine backgrounds to be this very complicated and detailed thing. In fact, I found that decreasing detail the further you get away can add to the focus of the scene. And of course, this is an illustration where Optimus Prime is being a little more contemplative, right? He's giving a speech, Autobots. So we really don't need that much detail in the city because that all sort of fades away. That becomes the landscape that he's looking in. So a couple dots to imply street lights or lighting, and then just even the whole back of it being one singular color so that we can put the more detail into the grass, put a little more detail into the rock here. So I decided the beetle was less impactful than the rock. If you know your gay robot lore, you'll see why. All right. And so it was at this point that I had figured out blocking everything in and adding a bit of light and texture to it that I thought, are these levels correct, right? So I went and I created an adjustment layer and I set that to black and white. Oh boy. What is going on here? Can anyone tell me what the issue with this is? Yes?
The subjects and the backgrounds are kind of fading together.
Absolutely correct. Yes, subject and the backgrounds are fading together. The darkest point on the piece is kind of already here in his wheel, and also in the trees, so that doesn't really make sense. The gun is a fair bit further from the trees, but it's also pretty dark, and then most egregiously, the top of this rock is about the same hue as the stuff in the far background. So this was looking a little muddy, right? I was looking at this and I thought, it's readable, but it could be more readable. So in the industry, we call this pushing. So the idea is to assign each level of depth its own value. We can have the foreground to be the darkest. I think that's the most conventional, all the way over to the background, which becomes the most light. So I did a bit of level correction, and then I inserted a lens flare. This is kind of the thing that SHOBA does, I think, is that I always put lens flares into things. I'm always like looking at pictures and I'm thinking, wow, how can I add more effects to this? And I'll speak about that real quick. Anyway, the levels are corrected now. You can see that it's a lot more readable. The far background is really quite the far background, and if we colorize it, then it looks more or less correct. So a brief word on light leaks, lens flares, and God rays. So light leaks are when you've got like a bright light, and some of that is leaking into the character. It is not a reflection that is different. It's more of a camera optical thing. Lens flares is the sort of epicenter of that, where it's like really shooting up bright. And then the God rays, I love God rays, are these sort of, phew, that's how I can describe it. You know when you're watching like a religious thing, and then there's like beams of light coming down from heaven.
You see the beams of light.
You see the light. You see the light. Yeah. Don't go towards the tunnel. It's not worth it. All right. So I want to speak about lens flares because I did this a lot when I was younger. And by younger, I mean like my 2023. The true story, by the way. You asked multiple people. I'm not going to say who. Yeah, true story. So I used to like flood everything with lens flares because I watched Star Trek '09 when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, I want to be like that. I don't know why. This is ugly. Okay, I can't describe it.
Those screenshots are real. I thought you at least edited them.
Okay. This one is edited, obviously. Could you tell? I couldn't. Like, what is going
that one
on?
was edited.
Yeah, because his eyes are lens flares. Okay, so the kind of gist of it is like this. A filter, or a lens flare, light leak, whatever you want to call it, how a filter works is that it limits either the levels or the hues of the image, right? So if let's say you're illustrating this, and you're thinking about where, okay, each thing is going to be where you're meticulously adjusting the levels and you're meticulously adjusting the hues, like you know how this works, and then you apply a filter to it, and suddenly your understanding of the color spectrum and the value spectrum of the piece just goes down because the filter unilaterally, like, it nukes everything, right? And so that's what I was doing. I found that I was decreasing the amount of information and therefore communication of the piece. Like you can see, there's more green here that didn't make it into the final piece, and I think that sort of neutered some of the piece's readability. And I think the worst was this. It looks better on a screen. It looks really bad in print. And my art teacher in third year, she was like, you need to stop. And then I went to Japan for a year of exchange. I think one of the best advices I got there was my prof was like, okay, you can imagine these effects to be like salt or candy. Like a little bit makes your art very yummy. A lot of it makes your art, it's too much. It takes the focus away from the art itself and it makes it more about the effects. So there's no need to be flashy. There's no need to show off. I think nailing those fundamentals are way better. So let's talk about something where I started painting with consideration to values first. Do we got any Enfield players in here? Nice. Side note, Enfield is like, I hate this game. I love this game. The characters are great, but I'm a really bad engineer. That's why I went into art, so I really hate this game. But I really like the character. I've had a lot of fun playing Enfield, mostly because of how bad I am. So I'm not going to show you my Enfield factory, but this is Choi's Corners Enfield factory. I think they're in the room with us right now. Great artist. And if you don't know what this is a stupid perpetual motion machine. It doesn't do anything, but I think it's very funny. And I thought to myself, how do we tell a story with this? Because I think background art is all about communication. So what if with little Chen built her stupid perpetual motion machine that doesn't do anything, dwarfed by these really big actual functional machines, and she's just feeling like really bad about everything, right? So that's the story we want to tell. So first of all, I just started a straight interpretation of the screenshot, keeping in mind the values, right? The darker things, this is the midground, the darkest thing in the foreground, and then the background is the most light. And then I thought, no, I should rule of thirds this. So in photography, they call the rule of thirds, basically you align objects of interest, these corners, to create a good composition. It just It just works, man. Okay, so here it is aligned to the rule of thirds. Chen's head is kind of over here. You got relay towers right like that. So I thought that looked okay. I wanted Chen to be the darkest value because that would make her stand out the most. She's a small subject, right? So we need to find ways to sort of push the storytelling onto her. So my initial thought was, oh, what if the relay tower is like shining a spotlight down? And I was inspired actually by the poster for The Exorcist on this. I think if you like have a wide range of inspirations that are just floating around in your head that you can just pull from whenever it's relevant, it's always more helpful. And I thought about it for a little more, and Choi brought up a good point, which is the relay towers don't work like this. Like, they don't shine light. So instead, I decided to change the entire lighting scenario to have the light streaming in from this side in order to highlight Chen. And with that in mind, right, we can create the piece around the storytelling. We know the light has to come from this direction, so we can draw the shadows coming out from that direction. So every piece is motivated by the decisions and consideration to the storytelling of that work. All right, so something I see a lot of beginner artists do is that they over-render things that don't matter. So this is some work that I made when I was 17. I don't really like it. I think a lot of it is over-rendered. Like this building, it has the same values at the top, at the bottom, and the side. And there's some over-rendering on this edge. I'm not really quite sure why. And so why do that when you can save yourself the work? And it also doesn't look very good. It looks like very organic and very strange. You can show detail in buildings with the complexity of the form itself, right? A building has all sorts of levels and balconies and windows jutting out of it. You don't need to do any of this over-rendering. Like even, hold on, where is it? Even the goat, probably the best background artist of all time, Shinkai Makoto, keeps it simple, right? He has this one sort of color for this bottom of this bridge, one color for this wall, and it's fine. He knows that in order to create a complicated, good-looking background, you want to make the work itself conceptually complicated. You don't need to make the individual rendering of itself complicated. Like, you want to think of yourself as a sculptor more than a painter. You are finding the form of it through colors and shapes. If you have the basic form of it right, it's probably going to look right. You want to make sure that nothing is muddy. All right. That being said, there is a thing I see a lot of background artists do, and they call it color variation or color difference. And it's basically when you have a plane. You can sort of break down each building into planes. I have a tub of Legos. I do this frequently. You can like build a miniature model of what you're drawing and then turn it around. And you're like one side of the Lego is one plane and then the other side of the Lego is the other plane. I just like Legos, man. So on this one side, we've got some color difference. They're all the same general level. It's just they're slightly different hues. And I think that adds a lot. We call it visual interest. And it just makes it more interesting to look at. This is why we can paint blue and pink grass, and it doesn't look weird, because level-wise, they're all the same. There's also something about observing things from real life. So in the glass of the factory building, I have the reflection of the thing itself. You see this a lot in real-life buildings. Look outside. And so the more you observe from real life, like really consciously going out and thinking, okay, how would I draw this? How would I draw the scene in front of me? The more things sort of work their way back into your artwork. There's like a difference between seeing and then seeing from the perspective of an artist, or I guess the difference between looking and seeing. So once again, if it doesn't work at a big picture level, it doesn't really work as a finished piece. But making sure that it does work at a big picture level, it looks more or less correct here. Alrighty. Stuff that specifically Shinkai Makoto does and why you maybe shouldn't do it. Look, Shinkai Makoto is the GOAT. I really love him. I will not tolerate any Shinkai slander. He's like the best director ever. He does a lot of things that I think a lot of people who study backgrounds do, and then they don't really consciously realize why they're doing them. So when you're studying other artists, which is, I really encourage people to study other artists, you want to know why they do certain things. So if I was to tell my 2022, 2023 era stuff, hey, don't do this until you understand it, right? Shinkai does something I like to call the haze, or it's more of a light leak. Basically, it kind of is this soft brush filter of a specific color. I think it's set to like an add blend mode over things, and it adds a very nice diffuse look to his work. Why does he do this? Well, Shinkai has a background in photography, actually. This is mimicking a light leak on a digital camera. It is mimicking the way the digital cameras capture light. It is not the way that human eyes capture light, because digital cameras capture a much more narrow spectrum of color. It is also an environmental thing. If the light leak is blue, such as over here, it's capturing the reflection of the sky. And it can also be used strategically to separate characters from their backgrounds. So it's about the haze. It's a very useful thing to do. It's based on natural phenomena. A lot of these Shinkai Makoto background things are based on natural phenomena, which is why you need to study the way the world works, just like people who specialize in characters will have a great understanding of muscle structure, because that also helps designing characters. He does a lot of rim lighting. That's when you add a thin section of highlight right here on the edges of objects. It separates them out from their backgrounds. He really pushes the... Let's see if I have... Nope. He really pushes the colors on things. Like, nothing is this bright in real life. You'll see, because there's green everywhere, it's probably bouncing up and reflecting into the inside of this pavilion. So he's really pushed the saturation on that. No pavilion in real life is this saturated, but he does it because it makes it look more interesting. You can see over here when the pillar decreases in the shadow, it becomes a little more orange. No pillar really works like that unless there's like transparent orange glass over here, but he does it because it makes it look more visually interesting. So which one of these techniques is natural phenomena? Which of these is a Shinkaiism? That's something that's good to study, and something that's good to study with any artist that you look at. But I will say, don't just study Shinkai. So when I went to Tokyo, I took a picture in front of this like really famous Your Name crossing. A shot so nice, he used it thrice. I would too. It looks nothing like that, okay? I mean, like, the shape is there, but I mean, look at it, come on. He does this thing where everything is like 30% glossier and more saturated, and so it looks real, like, it makes real life look really dreamy, but there are other artists that capture different aspects about backgrounds, and that's something that I learned, I think a year or so ago, is that if I broaden my horizons, I'll be able to wrap more things into my studies as an illustrator, so I'd like to impart that to you, like, if you have a favorite illustrator, great. Study someone else too. Lots of artists, both in the East and the West, that do really great stuff regarding backgrounds. I think something that Western artists do a lot that I don't see Asian artists do as much is pushing forms. So specifically pushing things so that they're a little wonkier, not as realistic, but that can lead for some good storytelling. Because remember, the background is a stage, and if we push that, then we're able to accentuate the storytelling. This is my obligatory Cherushina shout out. She's a local artist. You should support her too, because I like the way that she does backgrounds. All right. So once again, there are always many ways to improve, and I think constantly looking and studying things that you think are interesting will lead to an improved ability to depict the world around you. Don't forget your perspective either. This is my Science World piece. I really like it. It's on my business card, but it does have a couple of perspective issues. So being able to consciously observe your work through the lens of form and shape and light and color and perspective in order to more consciously improve that is very important. All right, so why are we here? Backgrounds are complicated and sometimes not even necessary. But I think they add a level of dimension to the storytelling of your illustrations that is very difficult to capture elsewhere. And we live in a city that's very gray and drab and not interesting to be in. And think about all the stories that you have had in your life experiences that have led you to this point, right? I think those are worth telling. And some of those are better accentuated by pushing certain aspects of the environments that you live in. Because when we have the basic rules of lighting and perspective and storytelling down, things can be opened up vastly. Like, we don't need to think of backgrounds as a rigid, rules-based discipline, even though in many aspects it is. We can also think of backgrounds as a way to loosen up and be free, right? When we study a place in the pursuit of drawing a background, we understand the character of that place. Like, every place has its own specific sort of stories on specific character. And I think for me, studying Vancouver and places like UBC and SFU, Science World and whatnot, I understand the city has a good character, and you guys are part of what makes that so interesting, such an interesting city to live in. And it helps you become a part of your community, right? I think we live in a world where, like I said at the beginning, artists really want to stay in their rooms. And the more that we go out and observe the world around us and engage with that, I think the more we can push back against that, and the more that we can become a united community. So yeah, some of the artists that use UBC and ECU, obviously ECU, but also like UBC, are some of the strongest artists that I've ever met. And a lot of them will not go, especially from UBC, won't go into the art industry and be professionally employed for it like me, which I think is even cooler, because that means your pieces are a true reflection of you removed from the constraints of corporatism. So you guys are way stronger than you know. Let's go forth and let's engage with our community and build a strong a background there. I'm sorry. Hey, question time! And if you don't want your question in the VOD, just let me know and I'll edit it out. Yes. Yes.
Just to get the ball rolling. So like, if you're a person that has avoided doing backgrounds, like, how do you like ease into it slowly so that you can like improve like what's? Because like I feel like if you go into it like with like a very nice reference and you're like, oh, I'm gonna copy that and it doesn't look good, you'll just be discouraged. Like, what's like an easy way to start for like beginners?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What is an easy way to start backgrounds for beginners? I'll approach this from two fronts. You can draw a very easy background. I think nature scenes are generally more easy than building scenes, simply because nature, you can kind of fudge the perspective a little bit, and a tree or a mountain is going to look like a tree or a mountain even if the proportions are not as the reference shows. So you can do something really easy like that. Skies are fun. As long as you have some bright, vibrant colors, most skies tend to look correct. The other thing I will say is maybe it's not a matter of level of like subject matter, maybe it is a level of detail question. So like you don't need to jump into like a super realistic Shinkai Makoto style background like right away. You can maybe do something more simple, break it down into shapes. I will say match the visual style of whatever else you're drawing to the background. And I think, yeah, like at some point we all started drawing the thing that we were like, I didn't start with backgrounds either. Like I started with like anime girls and stuff. And I think, of course, the first couple dozen are not going to look right. There's no reason to stop at all. Because we are all living proof that people get better over time, yeah? Yeah. You got this. Yes?
Can you speak on what sort of brushes you use for backgrounds?
Oh, yeah. Let's open CSP real quick. CSP. Hi. Oh, right, I dragged it to the bottom of the... Can I, like, drag it back? And then drag it back over. Okay. Just exit out of this real quick. All right. I dragged all of my usual brushes into one convenient folder that I named the usual suspects. So every single one of these are available for free except for this one, which is the Smooth Inker. I paid $40 for it and a bunch of other brushes. It's only good on a tablet. Okay, hold on. This one's my line work brush. It's a texture line work brush. This one is the one that I use to paint backgrounds most of the time. It is a square texture brush. It's hard to see on a mouse, but it does have a little bit of jitter and texture to it, which I think adds a bit of character. But this is very nice because I can simply move it up and down and use it to, I can use it to block in like city shapes really easily. And because a lot of architectural stuff is square based, that makes it easier. I have a super soft brush. It does exactly what it does. It's great for light leaks. The round mixing brush is the default. Oh, I should probably explain where I got these. This one is from this brush pack. The Evan something brush pack. And then the super soft, I also got it from the Evantant concept art brush pack. That's what it's called. In terms of color and textures, I have a cross-hatching brush or rake brush. This one is from Brushes by Aaron Griffin Art Datu Sniwan. The subtle color randomizer is also there. This is very easy for. Oh, this is a CD brush, so I'll give it a color. This one's fun because it creates subtle color variations when you paint it. So if I don't have a lot of time, I can just lay this on something, and it's very good. The Squares blender, almost the same thing, except it has no color variation, but it does create some nice, interesting shapes. I find I use it a lot more than I should. And then there's a trail brush. Hold on. Creates like a jittery sort of trail, which is fun for clouds. These ones I use considerably less than I use the texture paint and the smooth inker and the super soft. I think like I want to say 80% of my art is done with these 3 brushes. I find limiting your brush selection also helps you become a more focused artist. Yeah, so those are my brushes. I don't know if I can like send these out as a download because technically there is like paid stuff in here, so I don't want to be like pirating, distributing it. But you really don't need the smooth inker. Anyway, yeah, so once again, that's the, oh, come on.
If we could maybe have like a list of the names and then
Yeah, of the brush pack itself. Yeah, I'm trying to get that for you guys. Okay, brushes by Aaron Griffin Art _ DA2 SNH1. Write that down. I think it's from DeviantArt.
oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, DeviantArt has a lot of good brushes.
Yeah, it really does. A lot of good stuff before it nuked itself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We live in a nightmare. There's also the Evan concept art brush pack. Yeah. Other ones you may be interested in. I use this one less frequently. Where is it? This is the, I think, yeah, Marcy graphic brushes. Marcy just has a bunch of interesting stuff. There's a stripe brush. Never needed to use it, but it's there. I do use this one sometimes, the scatter sphere, because it's fun. And then if you have $40 and this was worth the $40. This is the TGTS Craft Tone brush pack. This one is more for my comic stuff, but it very vividly and realistically mimics how paper works and how ink works. That's really great. And we'll buy from them again probably when I have money, which is not often. All right. Can I exit out of clip? I'll exit out of clip.
Does anyone else have any more questions?
Yes.
How many layers do you usually do for like your regular professional pieces?
As few as possible.
I get
Yeah. You want to like, I like to think I ruthlessly eliminate the number of layers that I need. Not only because multiple layers causes me a headache, and like I can name them and I can color group them all I want and group them, and I do, but yeah, as few as possible. That being said, there's this one client that commissioned this ridiculously difficult piece. I cannot show it because it's under NDA, but it has like hundreds of layers going on in there. And it's like I grouped all the buildings into one layer and it's still hundreds of layers going on. Sometimes you need it, but yeah, as few as humanly possible. I think the Optimus one had like 3 or 4.
Do you usually like have multiple layers and then like merge them afterwards, or?
I try not to because when it comes to the color grading process, I find it easier to manipulate each thing. I usually categorize layers in terms of depth, like foreground, midground, background. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have recommendations for a set of practices for perspective, or was it more like over time you developed the skill because you just like to draw so many backgrounds?
Yeah, I think for perspective, definitely understand perspective grids. CSP has this really great feature where you can just generate a perspective grid, and if you play with that for a little bit, you start to understand how the rules of perspective works. But if you like crack open any drawing textbook or go on YouTube and search up perspective guide, you can learn what 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point perspective is, and then you draw that out, like I said earlier in the presentation. Where is it? Oh, we covered a lot of ground today. Oh, here it is. Set up a guide, choose the number of vanishing points you want, and then just go ham drawing cubes. It's really easy. And if you feel good with the cubes, then you can move on to like spheres or cylinders or some other shape. It's a pretty straightforward way to improve. Yeah. Yes.
You talked a lot about drawing attention using colors and light, but I wanted to ask, because still backgrounds have a lot of charm, but if you have an element, say like wind, what are your tips for creating movement within a background without losing the focus on the thing that you want to emphasize?
Right. Wind is fun, yeah. So, where's Optimus? For the Optimus piece, I had these feathers going on. They are a pretty light color, so I don't think they distract as much. You got sort of leaves that are flying off, some birds that are flying. Basically, if the levels are correct, I think you can add as much movement to the background as you want. The other thing that I will say is if there's a lot of distracting movement in the background that you want to include, you can ask yourself, do I really need this? If I don't, maybe I can save it for a different piece. Or you can turn that movement into a secondary focus, which is also fun. Yes?
How to match our own styles with the backgrounds, and how do you match our own styles with the backgrounds?
Okay, yeah. Style is one of those things that's really fun. It's a really good question. I think that if you draw something, that is your art style. Even if you're doing a study of someone else's art style, it is inevitably still your art style. So concepts of lighting and perspective and color, those don't change at all, no matter the art style. Like there are rules for a reason, and of course you can break the rules, and that's what makes your style unique. So yeah, study those fundamentals, and your style will incorporate them. I feel like this is a broader question in art. Like a lot of people want to develop their own unique style, and so they're like, oh, I'm going to do this thing different or this thing different. I'm not going to draw this. And I think that really limits them as artists. I think that the things that you gravitate towards, and even if you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and drawing something you wouldn't usually draw in a way that you usually wouldn't draw it, that is still your style. So yeah, style is something you're always subconsciously developing. That being said, clients will come to you for your specific style. That's just clients being clients. Pay them no heed. It is not important for your profession. It's not important for your artistic development. It is important for your professional development. Yes.
So, we know this already. Fundamentals, color theory, having like a basic understanding of that is really, really important to ensuring that you're able to make a masterpiece. But do you have like any sort of shortcuts or advice that will help you decide on what colors that you should put down? And for example, say like you don't have a reference on you and you kind of just want to doodle, but you want to make something good. How do you start putting down colors and know that it's good without like having to replace it over and over again?
Oh, no reference, and you just want to like draw from imagination. Well, look outside your window.
Just
Which is, it's really simple advice, but it's true. Or go on a walk. I think the best inspiration always comes from real life. In your own mind, there's like a finite number of things that you can eventually envision, but I think in real life, there's so many things that you might accidentally encounter. I saw a pine cone on campus the other day, and someone was like, wow, this is a really nice pine cone. I'm gonna take a picture of it. And I mean, that's good. I could like turn into future inspiration. The other thing that I will say is, usually when I'm drawing, and it's like, for example, this piece had no real references, I experiment with the colors forever. Also this UBC piece, what is going on here? That used never looked like that. I think I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. Form is more important than color. So if I lay down like a house shape, and then I can figure out what the colors are later. And if, let's say, I don't like this yellow sky, then I can easily go and change it later. And I usually do that. It's like a lot of painting and then overpainting. So most of the time, I don't actually start on the finished piece. The finished or final piece right away. I do a thumbnail. I draw it in many different colors, many different times until I figure out something that works for me. Yeah. Trial and error. Hit the wall like so many times until it breaks. Like I'm not a very smart person, so I'm just gonna like brute force it, you know? Which is why I like playing Chen in Enfield, but that's another story. Yes? Oh, just stretching, never mind. Yes?
What's your favorite medium to do backgrounds in? And if it's digital, then what other medium?
Digital, for sure. Acrylic is really fun, especially good for plein air because it dries really quickly, and it's not a medium that really pushes back against you. I have a love-hate relationship with watercolor. I think I am better at it now than I used to be. I'm still not very good at it. Watercolor is one of those, it has a mind of its own kind of mediums, and I don't like that. I'm a bit of a control freak. Oil is fun as well. Yeah, but I think acrylic, because it's a very yieldy medium. It does what I want it to do. Yeah, but for sure digital. I think yesterday I took my iPad out into the park and I was just drawing. Digital is like the most yieldy medium, and that gives me a lot of control, and I really admire it. I will say that sometimes it's a really good, even like soul exercise to do a watercolor piece or like a piece in a medium that is less yieldy, because it humbles you. And you also learn how to control things, and if at some point, I don't want to say like catastrophize or anything, but if like a solar flare or God forbid nuclear war knocks out our power grids and we won't have our tablets anymore, if you happen to get into a state where you can make art again, then you want to be able to make that art traditionally. Oh, also pens. How could I forget pens? I like pens. Pens are cool. Yeah. Micron 05, my beloved. Yes.
How do you, or what do you do when like you make a background, but you feel like it's too plain?
Ooh.
You maybe you draw like a landscape and then the grass is just like green.
Right.
You don't know what to add.
Bluegrass. Color difference in the grass. Where's that example? Let's see. Okay. I'm going to take you through my files and hopefully nothing terrible shows up. I might want to actually take this back into the... Okay, let's see. What is a really boring picture? Boring picture. Oh, I can talk about this. Okay, I need a counterexample to that, though. No, maybe. No. Oh, this is a good example. Okay, I have my examples, one sec. Crap, I forgot the first example. Here it is. Okay. So for Hanami, I did a stamp rally. It was an Arknights themed stamp rally, and we didn't want to use the official Arknights map because that would be copyright infringement. So I made a mock-up. And I was working on this, and if you go into the PSD, there are a bunch of different things going on. There are like alternate layers, and I think at some point there was a ground texture that was applied to this. Because I was looking at this and I thought, oh, this is too plain, this is too plain. And like even when I was sending it in to the organizers, I thought this is too plain. And then I sent it in, and it actually worked on the stamp card. So this is a case where I thought to myself, oh, this thing that I'm drawing or designing, I guess, isn't going to work because it's too basic. And it actually did end up working. So sometimes your judgment can be misplaced. And then the other one, I started this when like, what was the last Alien Stage song called? Karma. Yeah. I drew this the day that Karma came out, and then I never really picked it up. But basically, you know how in Alien Stage, if you've seen it, they're like in this room that's painted to look like a field. There's not much you can do with that, right? So I think one of the reasons that really discouraged me was I thought, oh, this is going to be really basic, and I don't know where to take it. And then I thought to myself, okay, so we can add some shadows under these trees, and we can even do some color difference over here. The other thing is I decided to put a hill. You can just add extraneous elements. For fields specifically, it's very hard to make fields look boring. You can have flowers, extra people in the fields. Cityscapes, I've drawn a number of buildings that look very boring because it's like just one flat plane of it. But if I can go back to Optimus real quick. Come on, do something. Oh yeah. So when I finished Optimus, I also thought, this guy looks too plain. What can I do? And so that was the moment where I decided to add these trees. And what these trees did was they mucked up the frame a little bit, so they create more levels. And then I had the trees casting this light effect. And that, I think, solved the plainness problem to me. So there's always things that you can add. Like, as the artist, you control the world. Like, who cares if it's not there in real life? Yes.
I guess in the opposite vein, how do you know when to stop adding detail? Because it's very easy to get carried away.
Oh.
Like when you wanna I get when you wanna convey something, right? Yeah, especially storytelling. You have a lot to think about. How do you know to tell yourself the right?
This is a case where it really helps to have friends that do art. Sometimes they'll just send something to people and be like, "Is this too much?" And it's like, "Yeah, we should cut back 30% of this." For me, I think a lot of my pieces suffer from the issue of overcrowding. So if I'm not really sure about a piece, I'll usually just sleep on it for a day. Yeah. And if it's client work and I need it done in that moment, I'll usually ask myself, like, is this the most simple that it can be? Like, does this reach my goal in the most direct way possible? And if there's anything that is not contributing to that, then I cut it. Or I come up with a reason to include it in because I like my complicated backgrounds. Okay. Yes.
You know what I have to ask you?
Yes?
What's your favorite brand of barbecue sauce?
I told you this. I told you this. It's oyster sauce, which is not barbecue sauce, but you can get it at TNT, and it's better than most barbecue sauces.
Which brand of oyster sauce?
You know the one with the panda on it?
Oh, that one. Oh.
Yes.
Artistically, which is your favorite Alien stage video?
Karma.
Oh, Karma
Easy
is a
answer.
very pretty video, even though I don't necessarily like it plot-wise, but it's very pretty.
Yeah, plot-wise is like a completely different story. I think Alien Stage went off the rails. You can talk to me about that after the workshop, but Karma just has the best layouts for me personally. Like that scene when Sua and Mizi are in the tub, trying to avoid spoilers. That was great. The color tone was awesome. Second best, I'm gonna say Cure.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. Cure is one of those ones where they don't have a lot of colors to work with, and they make the most of that sort of muted palette. That rain was awesome, but in general, all of the Alien Stage videos have really good art direction. Yeah. I still got chills when I watched the first one, and they're singing, and then the hologram thing comes up, and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And the storytelling really accentuates this sort of bubbly atmosphere, and then, well, we all know what happens. Yes?
You mentioned about at first your start point was once to draw cute anime girls. Then at what point you shift your focus from character drawing to background drawing?
Oh, there was one day where, I can pull this up, hold on. There was one day where, oh, come on, do something. Oh, crims, it's so slow. All right. There was this. Can you open? Oh, it's opening on my other monitor. Sorry. Okay. There was this guy that did a lot of AI stuff in a Discord server I used to be in, and I was like, wow, this pisses me off. But he had promised me 2 years before that point that he would commission me for something back before Midjourney was a thing. And he's like, okay, I'm going to make good on this promise. And I thought to myself, I need to make something that is way better than anything AI can do. And that's easy because I'm better than AI. You are all better. You are all better than AI. Yes, 100%. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to draw the cutest character ever. It's going to be great. And he's like, draw me the moon. And I'm like, what do I look like, Gru? So I did, and I thought, oh, this is really fun. I'll show you the initial draft of this, actually. You know what? No, this is going to take too much time. Basically, I thought I had everything up to a very undetailed version of this picture, and I thought, okay, I'm done. And then I thought, no, I can go further with this. The spite against this guy for using Midjourney was propelling me to just push the piece further. And by the time I finished, I was like, it's not bad, actually. I could probably do this again. So the next thing that I drew, right after, was the Steveston. No. Come on. No, that's... Oh, gosh, no, that's legal stuff. Oh, I'm gonna cut that out of the VOD. That's just a sky. Okay, whatever. This is the post-process. The next thing was this picture of Steveston. And basically, I just did it because I wanted another excuse to draw clouds because I had so much fun the first time. And then I, again, like had a really basic mock-up for the buildings. I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I was like, actually, what if I could just push this even further? And so, you know what I did? I went on Spotify and I started blasting Shinkai Makoto soundtracks. I think I listened to like Grand Escape 30 times in the span of an afternoon, and it was just going. I was like, oh, he's so good. He makes such good movies. And then by the time I, like the fever dream of listening to Dream Lantern was done, this had materialized, and I was like, oh, I actually had a lot of fun. This is like drugs, but better. And I haven't stopped ever since. So yeah, the spite of AI and Shinkai Makoto music. Radwimps is great. Yes?
So did this guy turn over a new leaf when you did the convention for him?
Maybe, because he actually hasn't posted any of his Mid-Journey stuff ever since, so who knows?
Oh, butterfly.
Yeah. Who knows?
Maybe you just destroyed his self-esteem.
No, this is, oh gosh, because the original piece was like, I had this whole meaning of it being like, hey, you should believe in yourself. Like, you don't need these like technology tools to be good. I would hate if it destroyed your self-esteem. That would be terrible.
I mean, I feel like it's hard to destroy your self-esteem because do AI artists base their self-esteem on AI?
Yeah, what do you think they're like? Do they think we have conversations like we have, like, oh, my prompt didn't turn out right?
No, but they crash out at like every time you insist that they didn't make art.
Oh gosh, yeah, no, maybe it's that, or like, okay, so I'm doing this like story where the bad guys are AI bros, so like I swallowed my self-pride and I went in r/Midjourney. It's like a real cesspool, and it really was like that. Like people were like, hey, this prompt, how many brackets do I need to make it look good? I was like, this sucks. Anyway, yeah.
Yourselves AI programmers.
Pardon?
What's our AI developers?
Oh gosh, it's like they're throwing a bunch of things into this black box and they're seeing what comes out, and that's no way to make something. I wanted to actually make it, you know. Anyway, that's why I say you guys are all better than AI. Yes.
I have to ask, since it sounds like you went above and beyond for that commission, do you think you got paid enough for
No.
that commission?
At the time, it was more money than I had ever been paid for something. I guess because he was in tech, it wasn't enough.
That makes everything make sense.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say that if you're planning to do art professionally, charge more than you think your art is worth. If your client, like you never know how much someone is willing to pay for something, and you deserve more money because art, like illustration, used to be a middle class career, and it still can be again. That being said, like if your client likes your work, then if they don't like your price, they will rebuttal back with a price that is more within their budget. And that's how negotiation works. So yeah, please charge more. I see you guys doing commissions for, I won't say specific numbers because I don't want to be mean, but a lot less than you're worth. You guys are good. Please charge more. It helps me charge more too. Yes.
What's your favorite Arknight's character?
Oh, Lancet. You know, the ball robot that does healing. Close second is Chen. I really thought I would hate Chen. I was like, the moment I saw her, I was like, you're telling me a policewoman is gonna wear shorts? Like, that's so dangerous. Never mind it's just bad sense. And then like the story went on, and she like left the police, and I was like, hell yeah. Anyway, Chen is really cool too.
Do you have a separate like favorite operator art in the game?
Ooh, you know the new Lumen Hangyodan skin? That was pretty good.
That's all the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you! Happy to be here.